All right, let's get into Mike's
Mike's
segment.
segment.
And he's
Not
going to
really. I'll
fully
talk
take
about
over
2
the
minutes and
podcast
that's
now.
it. Okay, last was no.
No, well, I hope not. Hades. So Swinny and I haven't played Hades. Hades has gained a huge amount of
Number one
popularity.
on the Switch.
Very highly rated game. A lot of people are like calling this game of the year, which is awesome. Like, I'd love to see a different game be game of the year. But yeah,
Look,
so like, let's go through your review of Hades.
So I'll preface this with the fact that I picked it up randomly because I think I was playing Hollow Knight, and I went, I want something that's a little easier, a little more actiony. I'm getting sick of being stuck on this particular boss. And I knew about Hades because I had seen it when it was 20% off pre-launch. And I thought, hey, is this, the art style looks like Bastion, which I played way back. I think that was the first game that Supergiant, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really good, by the way, at remembering who makes games and stuff like that. I'm really shit at that. But I do. I actually haven't. But I know with this particular one, mostly because of the art style, I remember it looked to me exactly like Bastion. And then Transistor, I think, came sometime in between, and again, very similar look and feel. So they must be using, I guess, the same base engine. I love the art style and stuff. I'm like, hey, I'll just pick it up, give it a shot, see what it's like. I got hooked. It is such an addictive gameplay loop. Probably one of the most addictive gameplay loops I've experienced in recent times. And I think the key to that, other than solid gameplay, and I can go into the gameplay in a little bit, is it's a roguelike. So you're expected to die over and over again. But unlike a lot of games that generally penalize you fairly severely for dying, so if, I use Hollow Knight as an example. If you die, your spirit comes out, you can go back, and then you can kill it, and then you can collect all the stuff that you dropped. But if you lose twice, and it's the same as in Dark Souls, you lose your souls completely. So it's a massive penalty. Whereas the cool twist with this game is the story progresses every time you die. So the gameplay itself, other than, some of the characters you meet across the way through the actual game loop, it's action-based. But when you go back at the start after you die, you get to talk to the NPCs and you get to uncover the story. And it's a pretty unique conversation each time you talk to them again. So they did quite a lot of extensive voice acting. You can clearly tell it's really well done. So in a strange way, you almost look forward to dying, or maybe not look forward to, but you don't feel as bad in dying because you know that you'll see something cool and you'll progress the story and you'll get a little bit more powerful for the next run. So I loved that mechanic. It's one of the coolest things that I've seen implemented. I think the closest thing recently that I played that was kind of like that, but it didn't really have the same story aspect, was Dead Cells, which Hades kind of, I don't know if it's inspired by Dead Cells. Dead Cells has been around for a little while, but it's a very similar concept. I mean, it's the same concept that a lot of roguelikes have, where you play through the game, you're weak at the start, you randomly get weapons, so every playthrough is technically different, purely from that aspect in itself. Randomly generated rooms and stuff as well. And then you die because you tend to not be powerful enough. You don't know the game yet. And you get certain upgrades that you can permanently use to boost your character. So in theory, the next round that you play should be a little bit easier, and then you keep doing it and it should get easier every single time. One of the cool mechanics that they included, and I actually only saw it after I died about 25 times. So I'd done quite a chunk of the game by the 25th time. I hadn't clocked it yet. I got to the final boss maybe 3 times in that amount. Is a concept of God mode. So you can go to the options and you can enable God mode. And what that does is it makes you 20% less, I guess, or to put it another way, you take 20% less damage. And then every time you die, it increases the amount of damage that you can withstand all the way up to 80%. So if you struggle at the game, you can enable that. And as you keep dying and dying and dying, you slowly, the game becomes easier in theory. And it's such a brilliant mechanic. But even, by the way, to anyone that's actually playing it, if you really love a challenge, don't enable it. I didn't have it on for the first 25 runs. But I would dare say I did turn it on at the 25th mark. Only because I felt like otherwise the developers could have maybe been a little bit more rewarding with what they give you to be able to upgrade a character between runs. I felt it was just taking way too long to be able to upgrade some stuff to really complete the game properly. And again, as much as I love those kind of games, and I've said multiple times in this podcast already, I don't like repetitive games like that. This is the ultimate repetition.
I interrupt you? It's like the thing that made me laugh all the way through the podcast, not the interrupting, that pissed me off, but the thing that made me laugh is you kept on attacking.
I'm not attacking
people who like repetitive games,
the game.
And then I know. Of course I do. You want to talk about.
I knew you were waiting for this.
Which is literally a roguelike.
Here's the difference.
It's a roguelike. The whole idea is it's a gameplay loop.
Yes, within its own confined ecosystem, let's say, I didn't mind the fact that for about 3 days or whatever it was, 3 or 4 days, I was hooked on that game. Even my girlfriend goes, because I was sitting there in bed playing it at about 2 a.m. one of the days, and she's like, "Is this what you used to do all the time before you met me? Just go home and play Xbox?" But the difference is
the answer is yes.
I'm happy
she's listening
to play this kind of games because I know it will be for a limited amount of time, and because a game like that had an I wouldn't say amazing, but it had a really cool, captivating story that was worth experiencing and going through. And I knew that I had the power in me to be able to put an end to it. And it's exactly what I did. So, dude, it is because I in the past, I struggled with that.
I have to say,
I really would. It'd be so hard to put it down. What were you going to say?
I feel like that's a good title for the episode. I have the power in me to end it.
Sure, go with that. So I knew at the onset, I'm self-aware enough that a game like that can be super addictive. And I knew there was a really good chance I'll get hooked on a game like that. And it's exactly what happened. But I also knew that now I have the self-control to say, okay, have I played this game enough to feel satisfied about it? And after 25 runs, which I don't know what that equates to, like each run is probably at least half an hour. Some were longer, some were a little shorter, but let's average it out to about a half an hour. So at that stage, I probably had already played, including being in the menus and everything, probably getting close to actually 20 hours worth of the game. And then I thought, hey, I'll enable this God mode. It made a difference, but it didn't really, because it still took probably like at least another 15, 20 runs. I don't know. I have to actually check how many it was in total to complete the game. You never truly complete the game because in those games, especially, if you want to.
Well, I finished it. That's true. I think if you beat it 8 times or something like that, but then it's got like the final boss.
Yeah, what's completion though? Because roguelikes in that sense, yes, they have the ability to complete, but then I'm sure there's achievements for doing particular things. I'm sure there's some people would want to complete to upgrade every single thing that they have, every weapon that they have, every ability that they have. So completion is, can you complete the story at a certain point? Absolutely.
No, there is. There's like, so normally in these games, I'm just across it because I really got into the
that's
dungeon.
Good too.
Like normally what they do is they have what the fans, and to be honest, the developers as well, consider to be quote unquote the true ending. And that's you actually beating the game. And a lot of the times you actually have to beat it in lots of different ways, and then you almost do the opposite of what you're doing. A lot of these games have almost like an anti-God mode, which makes the game harder. So that's what Dead Cells
game was hard.
And that's how you unlock the true ending. So and I naively sort of had the same view as you around these roguelike or roguelite games until I saw, the Completionist is a YouTuber. It's a very, very cool channel. He actually completed Dead Cells
Wow.
because he got challenged by his community to complete Dead Cells. And I'm like, how do you complete it? And he actually did. He got every single item, every single weapon, and every single ending.
That is the ultimate completion. Don't get me wrong. I'm aware that there's mechanisms that
he did it all.
You could say, okay, it's complete from a story perspective. It's complete from an achievements perspective. It's maybe even complete from what the developers wanted you. But in a game like this, you could spend probably hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to actually unlock and finish everything.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So I told myself, back to the story, that, okay, I will complete what I feel is the story, meaning beating I guess it's not the final boss, but it was the final boss that kind of finished the loop in a way. I completed the run properly.
Completing the run. And yeah. If you complete I'm the same as you. Like, I consider it, if you complete a run in a roguelike or roguelike, that's kind of like you've beaten it. And that might not be the true ending, but I feel like, hey, you've done it. You know, you've done a run successfully. You didn't die. Great.
It was
like, that's kind of winning.
To me, in the end, it didn't. I mean, there was no achievements that popped out. There was nothing like that. I just felt, okay, I completed it. I feel complete, if you could put it that way, and I feel content that I got what I wanted out of this game. And initially, I'm like, okay, I'll delete it straight away. But I quickly played it probably for another 10 minutes just to see if anything had changed. Any of the no, I did.
Oh, I thought
As in, I went around just to check what if the characters had changed, any of the conversation, or if there was something that had progressed. And of course they did. They reacted to what had happened. And then I went, okay, cool, that's it, done. And I just deleted it. So amazing experience. Highly recommend it if you feel that you're capable of keeping it at bay. But as a warning, it is the kind of game that, because of that really addictive loop, and the fact that even now I know that there's more story, because you finish the story and you get to your goal, which I won't spoil what it is, and then there's a very strong hint that to progress that part of the story, you need to keep playing the game multiple times. So I didn't really finish the story per se. I'm just going to go check it out on YouTube. But, you know, I spent 30, 40 hours. I need to actually check exactly how much, but I'll probably estimate like 40 hours on that game. And that, to me, that's enough. I want to move on to the next thing and you know, finish Hollow Knight and see what else there is.
Yeah.
But really solid game. Highly recommend it.
That makes sense. And yeah, like, that was actually like one thing I keep hearing from everyone about this game, that how the story reacts to your runs in a way that feels very dynamic and it feels very alive. Like, that's almost the number one thing that people say, like, along with it being super addictive, which I kind of think goes hand in hand with roguelites and roguelites. Like, if they're a good game, they're addictive. Like, that's the kind of gameplay loop that you have. And even some people on my friend list on Switch and Steam, like, I look through their most played games, and some people it's like Binding of Isaac 1,000 hours. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I totally get it.
But I get it. Yeah. Like, if you love it, you know, I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of Rocket League, so I'm not judging. But yeah, if you like that loop, it's super addictive. So we actually don't have a scoring system because we don't review. Like, we review a lot of stuff, but we've never landed on a scoring system. So the way we do it generally is you have to make up your own scoring system and then score the game. So the first phase is, what's the scoring system that you want to make up for this game?
Well, I'll just jump straight to the score. I'm going to give it 9 deaths out of 10.
Okay, so just a classic 9 out of 10 system.
It's an excellent game.
9 out of 10, and that correlates.
And
to what
it's
most
well
people
priced.
are saying. Yeah,
so like, I think I paid full price. It was only $35 or something Australian. I don't know what that equates to US, because I'd imagine a lot of your maybe listeners are actually not based in Australia. But it's $20 maybe. Yes, it's a budgety kind of game. And if you look at the dollar per hour that you could get out of this game, it's really good value. Even if you just play it through once, it's a really, really good value. So, solid game for the price.
Yeah, it seems like if you like anything in that roguelike / light,
absolutely,
genre,
it's so polished. They've taken all the concepts out of previous ones, and to me, so I played Dead Cells when it was originally on early access, and it was still relatively limited back then. I bought it on early access. Gosh, I don't even remember when. It was maybe Something like that, yeah.
2017,
It
I
feels
think it
like
came out
two,
on
3 years ago that I
early access.
bought it, back when
Yeah.
I was living in the previous place and stuff. And I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the loop. It wasn't as rewarding, and I found the problem that I had with it is because of the limited time that I felt I had, it wasn't rewarding enough to unlock enough stuff to feel worthwhile. I felt like I just had to do so many runs until I got something tangible enough to feel like I made progress. And at the time, it was hard to really get to some of the areas. I'm like, am I missing something, or am I just really shit at this? And I don't feel like I was shit at the game. It was just very unforgiving in certain parts. And the concept's exactly the same. So, like any roguelike, or most roguelikes anyway, you randomly get drops and abilities through each run. So every run is kind of different in that sense. And I think Hades has taken that one step further, where you get a selection of different weapons, but the abilities that you get within the game alter the gameplay quite significantly. So I won't go into massive details, but basically you can get an ability that, you know, changes your special ability. So instead of one normal attack, it's 3 different types of attacks. Or your bow, instead of just shooting in one direction, splits into 3 arrows that go, you know, in 3 different directions. Those kind of significant weapon changes, and it's random. So you could get one run where, unfortunately, you just get upgrades that aren't really great, or they're not suitable to the way you generally play the game. And in another run, you might get something that just, it's so perfectly cohesive with the way you play and the weapons you've chosen that you just rip through all the enemies. And like the last run that I did with the boss was almost a 180 compared to the run before that, where I had lost somewhere like halfway through to one of the bosses. I just didn't really have good equipment. And then right after the next run, I happened to get really good upgrades that I got to the final boss, and I still had you don't get lives per se, so you have a single life, but you have this concept of being able to revive to a certain amount of health if you die, and you can upgrade that to I think 2 extra ones is what I had. I don't know if you can go higher than that. You can get up to 3 with the special items, so you can effectively preserve life.
Like
Yes, you can survive up to 3 deaths. And normally, you know, I'll run through all those well before the final boss. But I was at the final boss, and I think I beat him with all of them intact. So just the build that I had was just perfect. So there's a huge element of randomness, not just skill involved. But I think that's what keeps it fresh, because unlike a lot of other games, I felt like every time I started the run again, I was looking forward to seeing what new ability I unlocked. And through the entire process, I was still unlocking stuff. There was still stuff that was new, like a new ability or a new move or something that I hadn't actually seen the entire time. So it's really well adjusted, polished, amazing game.
No, like it's definitely a game that I've got a keen eye to play. I might buy it when it's on sale again. Like, and it's cool how they launched it on sale. I must admit, for me, I'm not a really big fan of pure rogue like games where, you know, that real element of you're not really progressing between runs. I like this style of game where it's still got those elements of randomness, but you are building, like, you know, you're unlocking abilities or, you know, weapons or these type of things. So then future runs are going to be easier effectively. And you're also increasing your skill through time. So it's sort of like the game should become naturally easier,
which it does,
over time.
It's really well polished. They've thought about this really well.
Because I always just kind of feel like, oh man, like I'm not progressing here, or like, you know, you're just going back to square one, and it's like you've gained nothing.
And then you just turn the game off.
That run, which, you know,
it
for
puts
everything.
It off and,
and everything I've heard about this game, given that like you actually do get stuff, and then also the story itself reflects.
It rewards you for the repetition really, really well. And in a genuine way as well, not in a forced kind of gimmicky kind of way. For once, I actually played a game where I felt rewarded for dying and repeating the same thing over and over again, just because it sort of genuinely revealed more of the story and allowed me to experience things differently each time. So it's just brilliant. It's really well thought out, very polished.
And And it's funny about the whole God mode thing, because I know Sweeney would never switch.
Well,
to
he would
God
if there's
mode,
no achievements,
and then beat the game. Like maybe he might do it after beating the game, but he would never do it.
Well, look, I felt like that too. By the way, sorry, I felt, ooh, should I do this? I feel like I'm cheapening out. But then I thought, you know what? It's actually the concept of it is it makes sense in the game that you're playing. If that makes sense, because it's not like it makes the game easy. It makes it a little easier, but gradually easier. So it still takes you many runs to be able to actually beat the boss and finish the story and everything. It just, doesn't take you the insane amounts of runs that it might take you otherwise. So if you value your time, I feel like genuinely you're not really cheating yourself, because in the end it's about cheating yourself, obviously. I really don't feel like you cheat yourself, even if you have it on from the start. You will get an amazing gaming experience. It just won't be as frustrating, and you actually get to experience stuff.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So 9 out of 10 for you. That's highly recommends in our scale, I guess.
I played on the Switch because I love the portability. So on that point, because I was talking about The Witcher.
I was going to ask.
No performance whatsoever. Like maybe minor slowdown here or there, but I was actually thinking about that it ran quite well.
Because some people are saying that, and I think these are people who played it on PC and then got it on Switch. That
I'm sure compared to PC, it probably would be better on PC, of course. But that goes back to what I was saying about The Witcher versus playing it on PC versus the Switch. So I was flipping between them. On the Switch, it effectively runs at pretty much the lowest settings you can have on PC. Which that's like obviously makes sense. I mean, it's amazing that they crammed that game onto a cartridge and you can play it on the Switch. But I found myself enjoying it in a way more on the Switch, because I mostly played in portable mode. So I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I played it on my TV, let's say in docked mode, because then I'd be like, what's the point? I might as well just jump on the PC and play it on there. So I predominantly played it in bed or on the toilet or anywhere really, in handheld mode. And you don't really care about the performance as much. Yeah, it runs at 30 frames or less. No. At the start when it first came out, because I bought it at launch, one of the things that kind of annoyed me a little bit is it ran at really low resolution. So things were a little blurry, and that kind of put me off a bit more than the performance itself. But subsequently, and I don't remember when this was exactly, they released a patch, and one of the patches just opened up a whole bunch of options that you can change in the menu. And one of them was the ability to put sharpening on, so you can go full sharpening mode. And it made a world of difference. The game just looks and feels so good on the Switch in handheld mode. And I had no issues with that. In fact, I found myself going to the Switch way more than on PC, where I had it running at 144 frames on a gaming monitor at max everything. Super quality on like a 32-inch gaming. Yeah. Everything absolutely maxed that I could possibly max. Because I was running it on 2070 and it could handle a game like that, no problem. But I still found myself just going back to the Switch. I just enjoyed the experience of playing it in handheld on just in my bed, and that's so cool, I found.
Yeah, gaming to me, I'm the exact same as you. It's the whole experience, and I know Sweeney doesn't experience this, and you probably don't either. But for me, the ability to quickly stop a game and go do something else with kids and all this other kind of stuff and other stuff in life is such an important factor. It's almost like one of the most important factors for me. And even when I play Rocket League, which is a multiplayer game, if I'm going to play competitive, which, generally, if you're playing competitive, you shouldn't quit the game when you're playing it. You can, but it's it's not a very nice thing to do at all. And you get penalized in the game as well. I have to work around things in my life to make sure, I have, ability to do that. So for me, the Switch is massive because, if you're playing Witcher, you can just pause it by pressing the power button, put your Switch down, go do stuff, and then resume at any time. So whenever those games come out, for me, if they don't support cross-platform saving and progression, I basically don't get them, because it's Okay, like, and that's what the awesome thing about
Switcher.
the Witcher is that you can actually, play it on the Switch and then pick it up on
so good.
PC
I love
and continue. That's awesome. It's so, to me, it's like
absolutely,
you have to have that.
That's actually what sold me on it, because I never, I'm so embarrassed to say this, but I never fully finished The Witcher, and I have multiple copies on Xbox.
I know, but a lot of people are like that.
I've got the collector's edition, the one with the statue and everything on Xbox, and I still haven't finished the game. So, I mean, I think that's more it's not a negative thing about the game. It's an amazing game. It's more about me and my ability to commit and finish it. A game that takes that many hours. But now I finished it. So now I had it in mind to finish it, and I think I actually will finish it this time. And the biggest selling point when I bought it was the fact that I could port my saves across. So I could play it on the PC when I feel like it, play it in bed, and I felt like that would be a way that I could actually complete it for once.
Well, it's even more than porting the saves. It's actually synced.
You have to manually sync it, which isn't a big issue, to be honest. But you have to just remember, I played it on this and I have to go upload the file. It's a really minor thing.
Yeah, and I'm kind of okay with that because the Switch is so portable. You could have it on your desk on your PC anyway, and quickly do it. Yeah, and just on the ending and getting to the end, I mean, that is something that we covered previously, but just that CD Projekt Red, who made The Witcher 3 and then are making Cyberpunk 2077, have made Cyberpunk 2077's main campaign shorter because they've got the data, and it just said a lot of people played The Witcher a lot, but they didn't finish it because their perception is it's too long. So it's kind of an interesting reflection. Sound like you're in that camp because you get,
and it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly.
It's a bad thing in the sense that there's obviously certain things that unfortunately you don't get to experience because you never go far enough into the campaign. But I still spent hundreds of hours on that game. Probably it's the same as someone like Skyrim. I probably spent 300, 400 hours in that game in total on different platforms, including the Switch, and I've never finished it. Like I just on the Switch, I reckon I probably put 100 hours into that game. And I'm not even close to finishing the campaign, but it didn't matter because it was such a sandbox kind of game that you could go around and experience all the side stuff and create your own little journeys and stuff that it didn't really matter that you didn't finish the main quest. The only thing is, you missed out on probably some really cool gaming moments that were very scripted and finely tuned that you don't get in random encounters and stuff like that, just wandering around. But you can always look that up on the internet, I guess.
Yeah, nice. So recommendation from Mike and Big Week in Gaming for Hades.